Hello and welcome, thanks for tuning in, it's nice to have you with us. Andy, a community member from the German Xaron FR community, visited me today. He brought his car because on his car we will do a very interesting test, because a lot of questions of you arise around the topic if so-called Prewax cleaners are really necessary to prepare your car for the application of a wax, and how such Prewax cleaners, if they do, influence the performance of such a wax. This is exactly what we will test. We have several different Prewax cleaners, we have several different waxes. We will now apply them, let them cure, and then see if there really is any performance difference. As you just saw, we polished the whole hood in order to prepare it for this test. I used my trusty Rupes LHR 15 Mark III with a kamikaze backing plate here. We used the Sonax cut and finish as a polish, and afterwards we degreased the surface with the Sonax paint prepare, which in my opinion is one of the best panel preps you can get. So this is definitely something you can have a look at. But now we have a look at the lineup of products we will apply to this paint. I will now quickly run you through the field of waxes and Prewax cleaner we will be using. I will use the Prima Amigo as a universal Prewax cleaner in conjunction with the Bilt Hamber double speed wax. Then from AutoFinesse I will use the Rejuvenate Prewax cleaner with my favorite wax, by far my favorite wax from AutoFinesse, which is the Fusion. Then from the UK, Immaculate Reflection Spick and Span Prewax cleaner in conjunction with the Ultimate Blend, a very nice and fairly priced wax. Then I would say the most popular and best known Prewax cleaner in the world, which is the Dodo Juice Lime Prime in conjunction with the Blue Velvet wax, because this is a wax tailored towards darker colors, and I think we have a dark color here. Then it is the Dodo Juice Supernatural wax, and this is the regular, the normal Supernatural, not the hybrid and not the hybrid nano, in conjunction with the Supernatural Micro Prime Prewax cleaner. Then we have the R222 paintwork cleanser in conjunction with the R222 100% Canuba wax. Don't get confused if you're living in the, I think in the UK it's already called the P21S, and definitely in the US it's called P21S. However, because of a trademark infringement, P21S could not call this wax P21S in Europe, because that's a protected brand from another manufacturer. That's why it's called R222 here in Germany, but they are the same product. And also pay attention, the 100% Canuba wax is the one with the silver lid on there. This is a tiny bit more durable, the better all-rounder. The one with the blue lid on there would be the show wax, which is a tiny bit less durable, but is supposed to create more gloss. Then another very popular one is the Zymöl HD Cleans Prewax cleaner, and I will use it in conjunction with the Zymöl Titanium, which is the most durable wax by Zymöl, I think. Then we have the Swissvax Cleaner Fluid Regular, which a community member sent me a bottle of. I will use that in conjunction with the Swissvax Shield. And finally, from the UK or Scotland, I think it's the Michelin King Pure, which I will use in conjunction with the Michelin King RPM, which is the entry level, the cheapest wax that Michelin King does. And those are the waxes which we'll now apply. As you can see by the test sections that we taped off, we have a lot of work ahead of us. What we will do in order to create a test with a lot of information for you out there, we will apply each and every one of those waxes on the bare paint. And when I say bare paint, remember, we polished and degreased the hood, so this is a perfectly prepared test section there. Then we will apply the pre-wax cleaner first and then apply the wax on top of it. That means without degreasing after we removed the pre-wax cleaner. And we will do that with the brand-specific pre-wax cleaners and waxes on the upper part of the hood. Then on the lower part, we will do an additional test, which is we will once again apply all the pre-wax cleaners in this direction and then apply the Bilt Hamber double speed wax on top of each and every one of those pre-wax cleaners. And then finally, we will use the Prima Amigo in the lowest part and then apply the different waxes on top of it. And with this test, we can see how a wax reacts to different pre-wax cleaners and if it reacts differently. And we can also test how different waxes react to the same pre-wax cleaner. And because we now have so much work ahead of us, I would say we start and we will see each other in a minute. One additional hint, we will apply each and every one of the pre-wax cleaners by hand. Some of them say you could use a machine if you want to do that. In my opinion, you can just use the lowest speed setting you have on your machine polisher in conjunction with a very soft finishing or waxing pad. And the more important information is none of the manufacturers of those pre-wax cleaners tell you that there is a curing time, meaning you apply them by hand, you remove them with a microfiber towel, and then you can apply the wax straight ahead, which is exactly what we will do now. We now applied all the waxes and all the pre-wax cleaners. Because we have minus degrees here in Switzerland at the moment, the car will now stay inside this place where we have approximately 18 degrees overnight, which means we will see each other tomorrow when we start testing how those different test sections behave. So all the waxes now had a full day to properly cure. And the first thing that I want to show you is if there is a difference in the finish, gloss, shine, or however you want to call it, between the different test sections. First, we start with these two, because on here we have the wax which is applied to the polished and degreased surface, and then we have the wax applied on top of the pre-wax cleaner from the same manufacturer. And Mitchell & King, pure pre-wax cleaner, no difference whatsoever. Then we have Swissvax, exactly the same picture, no difference. And we have Zymöl, titanium, no difference. Then we have the R222 or P21S for you US guys, no difference. Dodo Juice, super natural. Also no visible difference. And it's the same for me with my human eye. I can't see it and you can't see it on camera. Dodo Juice Blue Velvet, no difference. Immaculate Reflection, again, no difference. AutoFinesse, no difference. And the Bilt Hamber Double Speedwax Pure, and on top of the Prima Amigo, also no difference. And it's the same story where we applied the different waxes on top of the Prima Amigo. There is no difference between these sections and the ones above. However, there is a difference between the different waxes, because as you can see, the Bilt Hamber did create a slight darkening effect, a bit more so than the AutoFinesse Fusion. The Immaculate Reflection did even more. There's the border. Yeah, the Dodo Juice Blue Velvet, being a wax for dark colored paints, did even more. Yeah, now you can really see it there. The Supernatural did also a lot for the finish of this black metallic paint. The R222, I would say somewhere in the middle. Then we have the Zymöl, which did, yeah, a tiny bit, but not much, which is okay because this is not the dedicated show wax by Zymöl. Swissvax did a tiny bit more than the Zymöl, but not quite as much as the Dodo Juices. And the Mitchell & King also did a tiny bit something, but not much. Yeah, you can clearly see it. So there is a difference between the different waxes, but not between the different test sections where we have different things underneath the waxes. And an additional proof for this is this test section, because here we applied the different Prewax-Cleaners, but then we applied the Bilt Hamber Double Speedwax on top of it. So if there would be a difference based on the different Prewax-Cleaners, then we would be able to see it in this row here, but I hope I can show it to you. Each and every one of these sections look exactly the same. So what does the finish here is the Bilt Hamber Double Speedwax and not the Prewax-Cleaners. So very, very clear result, and that goes back to what we always tell you. Gloss or shine comes from defect-free paint, meaning you have to polish it in order to get the maximum amount of shine, and not based on a Prewax cleaner that you use. All that waxes or finishing products in general can do is, for example, give a darkening effect, but they will not create gloss. Then we now go ahead and test if there is a difference in the initial hydrophobics of those waxes. We start with the Mitchell & King here. That looks very strong because in general, Mitchell & King waxes are not the most hydrophobic, but the RPM actually looks good. But the most important thing is, it does look exactly the same here above where we applied it on the bare naked paint and where we applied it on top of the Prewax cleaner by Mitchell & King. Swissvax, pure with the Prewax cleaner. Also exactly the same. Zymöl, exactly the same. R222, yeah, not as hydrophobic as the others, but that's what we already knew about this wax, and it's the same for those two sections. Then the two Dodo Juices, Supernatural here, Blue Velvet there, and here with the Prewax cleaner. I mean, tell me, you tell me, is there a difference? No. There's absolutely no difference. The Immaculate Reflection, Yeah, similar picture as with the R222. Not the most hydrophobic, but still good. No difference whatsoever between those two sections. Not in the beading, not in the contact angle. No. Then AutoFinesse, the Fusion Hybrid Wax. Yeah, as you can see, very hydrophobic, which is why this one is by far my most favorite wax by AutoFinesse. Very good result. And then we have the Bilt Hamber Double Speed Wax. Yeah, as we know it, extremely hydrophobic. The best of all the waxes, I would say, and there's no difference between these two sections there. We stay with the Bilt Hamber Double Speed Wax because we applied it in this row on top of the different Prewax-Cleaners, and let's now see if there is a difference. That's on top of Prima Amigo, AutoFinesse Rejuvenate, Immaculate Reflection, Dodo Juice Lime Prime, Dodo Juice Supernatural Prime, R222, Zymöl, Swissvax, and Michelin King. So, as you can see, there's no difference whatsoever between those different sections, and it's the same where we applied the different waxes on top of Prima Amigo instead of the Prewax-Cleaners from the respective manufacturers. There is Michelin King, looks good, but also looks good on there. Swissvax, Swissvax on top of Amigo, Zymöl on top of Amigo, Zymöl with the Zymöl Prewax Cleaner, and we can skip the part where I show it to you with all the other waxes because it's exactly the same. There is no difference whatsoever because it actually makes sense that this happens, what we observe here. Because when you think of what we did here is we applied the waxes on top of everything, which means that what you see in terms of the hydrophobics is the wax and not something that's underneath it. However, that only accounts for when these waxes are applied fresh, because now they really sit on top of the paint or on top of the respective Prewax cleaner. But the more interesting question now is if there will be a difference in terms of mechanical and chemical resistance when we start to wash this hood. Because I had some noise from the heater the day I did this video, I will now do it in a voiceover. I hope it's okay for you too regarding the sound quality. And now we see how the waxes behave with more water than before, a day after the application and a full day of curing. And as you can see, pretty much all the test sections work fine. Of course, we see that there are differences between the different waxes, especially the Immaculate Reflection is not as hydrophobic as the others, but we still see that it is functioning very fine. And we now have a look at a closer look at the different sections. Michelin King RPM works fine with or without the Prewax cleaner, I would say. Yeah, very nice, very hydrophobic wax. Swissvax Shield also works fine with or without the Prewax cleaner. Same for the Zymöl Titanium, it works just fine. Then we see that the R222 already is a tiny bit worse in the hydrophobics department. The Dodo Juice Supernatural works perfectly fine. The Dodo Juice Blue Velvet is slightly worse, I would say on a level with the R222. The Immaculate Reflection, we now see that it's not as good at beating and cheating as the other waxes. AutoFinesse Fusion, on the other hand, looks very, very good. And the Bilt Hamber Double Speed Wax, as we know it, extremely hydrophobic, which we see also on all these sections where we applied it on top of the different Prewax cleaners. All these sections look very, very good. And on the lowest part, we have the waxes applied on top of the Prima Amigo. And they look very good on here as well. Perfect, so we can now go ahead and in a first step, I will now use the AutoFinesse Citrus Power, which is a ready-to-use insect and dirt remover or a pre-wash. I let it dwell for approximately 5 minutes, and in this dwell time, we could already see something very interesting, that the Bilt Hamber Double Sweet Wax rejected the cleaner on some of the test sections, but not on all of them, which is a clear sign that the wax did not respond equally well to all the different Prewax cleaners. And this is a very, very interesting observation, which probably will lead to even more interesting results when we then go ahead and further test the chemical resistance of those waxes. I now remove the Citrus Power, and we can see that the R222 wax already took a severe hit from just one application of this comparably weak pre-wash or insect remover. It's especially bad on the test section where we applied the wax on top of the Prewax cleaner itself. We can also see in comparison to the Bilt Hamber Double Speed Wax that this works fine. And we see that the Immaculate Reflection Wax took another severe hit from that single application of the pre-wash. I will now use the Green Car Shampoo and Snow Foam. It's a product that you can use as a shampoo and a foam both, into this AVA wash bucket. I use the dilution ratio according to the manufacturer, and as you can now see, you don't always need a pressure washer in order to create foam in the bucket. You can also do it by moving the grit guard or dirt trap that is in your bucket up and down a few times to create nice foamy and sudsy water in there. The shampoo, by the way, is a fantastic one, very good, lubricated, extremely slick. The scent comes through rather well. And we now go ahead and wash the test panel for the first time. The smoke is because I use hot water or warm water in my washing hall. That is a luxury, but I like it very much. And now we see an extremely interesting result from just one wash on those test sections. And we especially see that some of the waxes already took a severe hit. We, for example, see that the Swissvax shield, where we applied it on top of the Prewax cleaner, is a bit worse in sheeting the water off. Same accounts for the Zymöl. The R222 wax took an incredibly severe hit by this washing. The Dodo Juice Supernatural didn't. The Dodo Juice Blue Velvet, on the other hand, did. The Immaculate Reflection Wax looks almost dead by now. The other test sections up there look rather good. The Bilt Hamber Wax seems to work good on all the test sections, except for the one on the far right, where we applied it on top of the AutoFinesse Rejuvenate Prewax cleaner. It's a tiny bit worse there. It's the second panel from the right side, and in the lowest panel we already see that some of the waxes did not play well with the Prima Amigo Prewax cleaner and this just one hit with a shampoo, especially Immaculate Reflection and R222. I now went ahead and washed the test panel or the hood 3 additional times. So in total, I washed it 4 times with the pH neutral shampoo without any additives in it. It's a very mild form of washing. Let's not forget that. But still, these 4 hits with shampoo and a wash mitt had some incredibly strong effects on some of those test sections, and especially we can see now that pretty much all the test panels look worse where we applied the waxes on top of the respective Prewax cleaners. There's not a single one, maybe except for the Bilt Hamber, but even there I would say it had an effect. That looks better where we applied the Prewax cleaner first. It's a very obvious, very impressive result. The Bilt Hamber also seems to be affected on the section where we applied it, for example, to the AutoFinesse Rejuvenate. And on the lowest test panel, we also see once again that the choice of a Prewax cleaner has an influence on the performance of the wax. With the Michelin King, we already see that the section where we applied it on top of the Prewax cleaner is worse. It definitely is worse with the Swissvax Shield. It's very visible there. With the Zymöl Titanium, it's even worse, I would say. Or, yeah, on a second look, I would say it's okay, actually. Yeah, maybe a tiny bit worse. The R222 looks really bad. Now the gimbal goes crazy. Yeah, we're back on track. The R222 does not look good on neither section. The Dodo Juice Supernatural does, on the other hand. Dodo Juice Blue Velvet, where we applied it on top of Lime Prime, does not look good. The Immaculate Reflection is almost gone, I would say. The AutoFinesse also looks worse on the section where we used the Prewax cleaner. But the interesting thing is how the Bilt Hamber behaves on top of the different Prewax cleaners, because with the Swissvax cleaner fluid, for example, it looks worse than with others. For example, on top of the R222, it also looks worse on the Dodo Juice Lime Prime or Supernatural Prime side, and there, where we used it on top of the AutoFinesse Prewax cleaner, it looks really bad. And that once again shows that this is just an experiment when you apply a wax on top of the Prewax cleaner of a different manufacturer. Yeah, on all the test sections this can be seen, and you can also see that not every wax works fine with the Prima Amigo as a Prewax cleaner. The R222 interestingly works rather good, but others really don't. The Swissvax doesn't, the Zymöl doesn't, the Dodo Juice Blue Velvet doesn't. The Dodo Juice Supernatural, on the other hand, seems to be okay. So yeah, all in all, very, very interesting results from this first hit with chemicals, and also the influence from a wash mitt and car shampoo. And we can now go ahead and do the durability testing. So, as you saw, those were already very, very clear and impressive results, because you clearly saw that each and every one of the test sections where we applied a Prewax cleaner before we applied the waxes was already severely attacked by what we did to those test sections. And as a reminder, I just used 1 round of a citrus pre-wash, which is safe for waxes according to the manufacturer, and then I washed the hood 4 times, meaning that if you would wash your car weekly, that would simulate a durability of 1 month. And if you would wash it bi-weekly, then this would be a duration of 2 months. And we already saw that just after 1 hit with the citrus pre-wash, 2 waxes were already severely damaged. And after the wash cycles, we absolutely clearly saw that each and every one of the test sections where we applied a pre-wax cleaner first, the hydrophobic performance of all the waxes was severely influenced. So once again, this shows that as soon as you use something like a glaze, a pre-wax cleaner, and all-in-one, a one-step polish, so anything that leaves something behind on your car's paint, that this something can work as a separator between the bare paint and the wax that you will apply, which will hinder the wax from properly bonding to your car's paint and therefore severely affecting the potential performance that your chosen car wax can achieve. We will now leave the waxes on the hood because the car of my good friend Andy is a very good test panel, as the car is driven a lot and it is parked outside the whole time. So if there are further changes in the performance of the waxes, we will see them rather quickly, especially because we have a harsh winter here in Switzerland. For you, this will be a very short break because I will show you the results of this long-term observation of those test sections in a few seconds, so just wait. So there we are again. For you, it's directly after the first part of the video. For us, it's a time bubble because we are now 2 months in the future. Andy drove the car for approximately 3,000 kilometers. He washed the car 2 to 3 times with pH neutral snow foams and shampoos without any additives in it, so it does not affect this test. And now we will have a look how the waxes and the waxes on top of the respective pre-wax cleaners work. In a first step, we will now snow foam the hood with an AVA P60 Master pressure washer attached to an MTM PF22 snow foam lens. This is version 1 with the bottle that tends to fall over. And in here we have Bouncer's It's All White Premium Car Snow Foam in a 1:10 dilution ratio, which means exactly 85 mils of product in 850 mils of water. Short feedback to the Bouncer's It's All White Snow Foam. I would say it's a solid snow foam that is on par with many others. And when I used it, I was especially reminded of the Sienna Gloss Snö, which I think is rather similar. The one thing that was disappointing is the scent, because when you sniff the bottle, it has a very pleasant, very present berry-like scent. However, when you spray the car with it, the scent does not stay. But on the other hand, I think the cling is rather good. The snow foam stays a long time on the car, but not as long as, for example, something like the Detail Bug Ice Bug or the Infinity Wax Power Foam. But still, when all is considered, I think this is a rather good, a solid, a recommendable snow foam. We go ahead and do now the hand wash of the whole test panel. I will use the Car-Chem 1900:1 Super Suds shampoo. This one is an interesting one because Car-Chem is a white label company, which means you probably have used and tried this exact shampoo but from other brands with another design, another scent or another color in there, but it has been this exact shampoo. Car-Chem gives you some hints back there. 1900:1 is the dilution ratio, and you should use 4 pumps because it has a pump dispenser up there in a 20-liter bucket. I already did that here. We have approximately 10 liters of water in here. I used 2.5 pumps because we have quite some hard water in here, and we will now wash the test panel. Short feedback to the Car-Chem 1900-1 Super Suds shampoo. Yes, it is a highly concentrated shampoo, but it was not the slickest I ever tried. If you want it to be super slick, then you have to use more than what the manufacturer recommends. And even if you do so, then you still need a very, very tiny amount of shampoo, and it is a super cheap shampoo. And if you wait for Black Friday, last year Car-Chem had a discount going on of 70%, and at this price level it is a very, very attractive shampoo. All right, let's now go through the different test panels and test sections. What I can already give you as a short summary is that none of the Prewax cleaner made anything better. In tendency, I would even say that Prewax cleaners make something worse. But let's go through them. On the most upward test panel here, we applied the waxes to bare paint, and directly below of that, we applied the waxes to the respective Prewax cleaners from the same manufacturer. We start with Mitchell & King. That was the RPM wax, and there I would say it's equally good or bad, depending on your point of view. So this one seems to work good with the Prewax cleaner. However, right next to it, we already see an issue, and that is the Swissvax Shield Wax. Applied to bare paint here, applied to the Swissvax cleaner fluid there. Now you see that the water film starts to open up there. However, not below that, but we have to wait until the water reaches the border where we applied the wax in order for it to be fair. Now it starts, but I think that the sheeting is much, much slower there than it is on the upper part. Let's have a look at it again. Now it's the upper part that sheets the water off. Now the lower part starts, but much, much slower. So once again, I would say equally bad for a wax that claims a durability of a whole year, or the Prewax cleaner made something worse. Same picture with the Zymöl titanium right next to it. There it opens up on the upper part, applied to bare paint, and below that applied to the HD cleans. Again, much slower sheeting. So this Prewax cleaner did not make anything better. Next to it we have the R222 or the P21S for the American guys of you. Once again, sheeting on the upper part is still visibly there, and on the lower part it takes much longer, but we will wait a moment. Yeah, I think you see the issue. Much, much slower beading. So once again, not a good result for the Prewax cleaner. Then we have Dodo Juice Supernatural. It sheets up there rather well. And then we wait. And once again, the water takes much longer to sheet off where we used the Prewax cleaner by Dodo Juice. Same for the Dodo Juice Blue Velvet, the old one, not the revised or refreshed one. Water sheets off on the upper part. And on the lower part, it takes much longer. Yeah, I think a clear result there. Then we have the Immaculate Reflection Ultimate Blend, which did not perform good to start with, but we also have a look at that. And in this case, I'm brave enough to say that this wax is dead after this amount of time and driving. And it does not matter if you apply it to bare paint or to the Prewax cleaner by Immaculate Reflection themselves. AutoFinesse Fusion. With this, I would say that it is equally good or equally bad. It does not matter if you use the AutoFinesse Rejuvenate underneath it. Yeah, same, I would say. And then we have the Bilt Hamber double speed wax applied to bare paint here and applied to the Prima Amigo down there. Now this one is interesting because on the flat panels here, it is equally good, I would say. Yeah, but on these sections on the side, it sheets much quicker there. So mixed results, but in tendency, I would say the Prewax cleaner did not make anything better, but more likely worse. Then we applied the Bilt Hamber double speed wax on this whole side here to the respective Prewax cleaner of the different manufacturers. And now it gets interesting. Here it starts to break up the water. This was with the Zymöl Prewax cleaner. With the Swissvax one, it also starts. Here it's already dry with the Prima Amigo, but with all the other sections, you see that the water stays on there. And that's exactly what I always tell you. As soon as you start to mix and match different manufacturers, it always is an experiment and you never know how well these chemicals play with each other. Interesting. And then we applied the Prima Amigo Prewax cleaner on the whole section on the lower end and applied the respective waxes on top. And now the R222 seems to work rather well with this one, but with the other ones, once again, here it is already dry, but with the other ones, this Prewax cleaner seems not to behave the same with every single wax. And once again, this just shows that it is an experiment. Interesting. And we can have a look at the whole line of the R222 wax. Yeah. Now we see it is good here. It is good on top. It is not so good with the own Prewax cleaner by R222. And the Bilt Hamber did really not play well with the Prewax cleaner by R222. So, once again, as a summary, Prewax cleaners do not make the durability or water behavior of different waxes better. In tendency, they make things worse. I personally think that those were as clear as results could ever be, because we absolutely clearly saw that if you properly prepare paint, meaning you clay it, meaning you use decontamination products, you clay it, you polish it and then degrease it, then you have perfect conditions in order for your chosen protective product to properly work and to bond to your car's paint. And everything that you would now apply between the paint and the chosen protection, meaning all in one or one-step type of polishes, glazes, pre-wax cleaners or primers, will always be and will always act as a separator between the paint and your chosen protective product, and will always decrease its performance, its hydrophobics, and especially its durability. However, we now have to be very clear and very careful with the results of this video, because these results do not mean that Prewax cleaners are useless products. There is a place for such products in the market, and that is if you don't want or can't polish your car's paint. Because if you would apply a protective product to an unprepared surface, then you always have decontaminations, you have imperfections such as scratches or swirls or marring on your paint. And then if you apply a protective product, these products will first have to fill those imperfections. And the thinner the protection is, and I'm now talking especially about spray waxes, quick detailers, or spray and rinse type of products, then they won't be able to work properly, and the results that you achieve will always be worse than in the case that you would perfectly prepare your car's paint. And under such circumstances, a Prewax cleaner or a primer or a glaze could make sense, because then you would fill up the imperfections in your car's paint to some degree, and then your chosen protective product can actually be applied on top of it and do the job that it's meant for. So pre-wax cleaners or glazes are for people who don't want or can't polish their car's paint, and in these cases it could actually make sense for you to apply such products first before you apply a wax. And this is exactly the reason why those pre-wax cleaners can and should be applied by hand. However, don't get me wrong, if you don't perfectly prepare your car's paint, meaning you don't polish and you don't degrease it, you will always have a decreased performance of protective products. So by using a pre-wax cleaner or by using a glaze, you just choose the lesser evil, meaning you will have a decreased performance, but the performance of your chosen protective product won't be as bad as if you would just apply those products to the bare, unprepared, damaged paint. So by far the best way to prepare your car's paint for a protective product will always be to decontaminate it, clay it, polish it, and then degrease it, because that is by far the best way to prepare your car's paint for a protective product. So once again, as a summary, if you prepare your car's paint properly, if you polish it, if you degrease it, then don't apply anything between your car's paint and the chosen protective product. Just apply it to bare paint, because those are the perfect conditions for such protective products to bond properly to your car's paint. If you can't prepare it properly, if you don't want or can't polish your car's paint, it could make sense for you to use such a glaze or a pre-wax cleaner, because then you make sure that the protective product you choose can be sitting on top of your car's paint and does not have to fill the imperfections first. However, be aware that by using such products, you will always decrease the performance of your chosen protective product, meaning you will decrease its performance, its durability, and its hydrophobics. And with that, I want to end this video. If you liked it, leave us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!